Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a life journey just brimming with incredible highs and, well, devastating lows, really complex relationships, and this relentless search for meaning amidst some profound personal struggles. Today, we're embarking on a fascinating deep dive into a case study that explores the very fabric of cause and effect, what some spiritual traditions profoundly call karma. Specifically, through the lens of Thai Buddhist teachings. Our sources for this deep dive include a collection of insights, particularly excerpts from an audio file titled Karma of Swinging. Now, it's important to clarify up front that while the title uses swinging, the sources actually describe something broader, a pattern of intricate sexual relationships, promiscuity, and involvement in what's termed a group sex business, not necessarily just, consensual partner swapping. Our mission really for you is to pull out the most potent nuggets of knowledge from this deeply personal and spiritual account. We want to help you understand how actions, intentions, maybe even past lives are seen to intertwine, shaping destiny, but also offering a path to transformation. We'll dig into questions around unconventional relationships, the ripple effects of choices, and the spiritual reasons for recurring life patterns.
Yet, what's truly captivating here is how these sources let us trace a narrative that seems to span not just one lifetime, but potentially many. It gives us this profound lens to view universal human experiences like, well, sexual misconduct, huge loss, and that ever-present quest for redemption. We'll be looking at the really intricate patterns that pop up when we connect the dots between actions and their sometimes very far-reaching consequences, all understood through this specific spiritual framework. And this particular journey, it actually resonated deeply with the listener who shared it. They mentioned that hearing a case about a masseuse made them reflect on their own life being kind of entangled in matters of sensual desire, or kame, which is that spiritual term for craving, attachment to sensual pleasures. It apparently brought them to tears, but also importantly inspired a renewed commitment to doing good. So the story begins with the subject's early life. As a young girl, she had this strong aversion to male attention, so much so she'd often pretend to be a boy, just to avoid it. Then she attended an all-girls school where she developed same-sex attraction. Sadly, this led to a period of heartbreak and academic failure, eventually causing her to drop out. And these early patterns of emotional turmoil, as our sources often highlight, can be potent catalysts for future karmic challenges, kind of setting a trajectory for how one seeks or maybe avoids intimacy later on.
That's quite a dramatic start. It sounds like she was sort of caught between this inherent aversion and maybe societal expectations. What happened after she dropped out? How did that feeling of being societally unacceptable affect her next moves?
Indeed, it created a really stark, almost aggressive reversal. Feeling societally unacceptable, that Pitsangkham rap Maidai feeling, she turned towards aggressively pursuing men. She adopted this mindset of, if I like someone, I must have them.
Hmm.
Things then escalated, rather shockingly. She found herself in what the sources describe as a competition where her peers would lure others. Basically, winning her affection brought money and alcohol. It was quite disturbing. She even endured attempted assault by both female and male friends. And ironically, moving to a women's dormitory, maybe for safety, actually ended up facilitating even more mingling with men.
Wow, so the very place meant to shield her kind of had the opposite effect. That does raise questions, doesn't it, about how much was her own free will and how much was maybe the result of the difficult circumstances she was navigating.
That's a profound question and one the karmic explanations touch on later. At just 17, she faced her first unplanned pregnancy. This led to her first abortion against her boyfriend's wishes, which caused a temporary breakup. Then a second unplanned pregnancy followed pretty quickly. This time there was immense pressure to marry from the boyfriend and his parents. Despite some delay tactics from his parents, she eventually gave birth to a daughter. But raising a child at 17 proved incredibly hard, nearly leading to the child's death at one point. So the daughter was ultimately placed with the boyfriend's parents. This period was also marked by heavy drinking and eventually another breakup. Her academic life was, well, a complete mess. 5 expulsions. Sexual promiscuity, drug use, and gambling. Astonishingly, despite all this, her parents apparently remained in denial, sort of clinging to this belief that their child was good and smart.
As her life went on, this story just gets even more complex, painting this picture of escalating challenges, but also this relentless pursuit of gratification. It really makes you wonder about that interplay between free will and maybe karmic destiny. What challenges came next, especially during that economic downturn?
Right. During an economic downturn, the protagonist actually had to flee a forced marriage arrangement meant to save her family's finances. She moved to Bangkok, got a job at a video distribution company. This environment, maybe unsurprisingly, led to her regularly watching pornography, which probably further entrenched certain patterns. Her drinking habit intensified. She was frequenting clubs, regularly taking men home, first one, then escalating to two at a time. She even mentions fighting over singers at these places. Eventually, her heavy drinking led to a near-death experience. Thankfully, others saved her.
It just sounds like her life was spiraling, really, each choice leading to an even more precarious situation. And I understand this period also involved more profound decisions, especially about family.
Yes, absolutely. During this time, she underwent 4 more abortions. Always kept secret from her partners, the sources say, because she feared commitment. She was actually earning good money working with relatives, but apparently every single penny went on alcohol and men. Then, after a quarrel with these relatives, she lost her job, found herself broke and unemployed. She even contemplated sex work until a friend bravely stepped in and stopped her.
Her life seemed to be hurtling towards, well, rock bottom, reaching a point where even sex work was on the table. It's often in those moments of despair, isn't it, that big shifts can happen. Expert, how do the sources connect this really challenging path to that larger karmic framework? Was there a spiritual turning point for her?
This is exactly where the narrative shifts quite dramatically. Amidst all this incredible turmoil, the protagonist, in what seems like a moment of spiritual awakening, prayed. She prayed for a good husband to lift her life from hell on earth, as she put it, and also to improve her family's financial situation. And remarkably, her prayer was answered. She did meet her current foreign husband, married him, and moved abroad. Initially, she was committed to fidelity for about 3 years. However, when she returned to Thailand, she experienced this powerful, renewed sexual desire, the Arong cry, and intense physical and mental distress. The sources describe it as Thrantre Murn Unai Narak, like being in hell whenever she tried to resist infidelity. Relief, she found, only came from listening to teachings about Mahanarak Kum 3, often translated as the third great hell realm. Listening to this actually strengthened her resolve significantly.
That's fascinating, finding strength from teachings about, well, suffering itself. It really highlights how spiritual knowledge can be a powerful tool, even in moments of intense temptation. What does her current spiritual practice look like? Is her husband supportive?
Well, it's a complex picture. Her husband does drive her to the temple, but then he insists on going to bars and drinking with friends afterward. So this leaves the protagonist really struggling to maintain the 5 precepts, the Sila Ha.
Right, the basic ethical guidelines, no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, intoxicants.
Exactly, those foundational guidelines. She wants to quit smoking and drinking, and she's actively seeking strength from the teachings she hears. But it's a constant battle, a negotiation between her spiritual goals and her husband's habits. There's also the really poignant story of her youngest brother. She felt he was, quote, stealing love from her parents. He was a troubled young man described as delinquent, a drug user, heavy drinker. During a time of severe family financial struggles, her brother happened to have life insurance. The protagonist, feeling like she herself might die, actually prayed for her brother to die instead, promising she'd embrace Buddhism if her prayer was answered. Soon after, her brother died in a motorcycle accident. This led to immense regret, obviously, and this belief that her brother died in her place.
Oh, that's a powerful, deeply human moment of desperation and then crushing guilt. Did his story end there, or did his presence kind of continue to manifest somehow?
According to the sources, his presence did continue. Later, her brother appeared in dreams and messages. Her mother consulted a medium who claimed the brother needed genes, which, as we'll see, is a common misconception in these frameworks. But more profoundly, the brother appeared in a dream warning about a niece's illness, and this was later confirmed. The niece had appendicitis. So this isn't just a personal struggle, it's a narrative packed with these spiritual consequences that really demand explanation.
Okay, so what does this all mean? We've traced this life filled with huge highs and lows, tough choices, unexpected spiritual turns. Expert, how do our sources connect all these dots? What are the profound karmic explanations that emerge that really help us understand the why behind her journey?
Right, this is where the spiritual framework offers, well, profound clarity. According to the sources, they give a very detailed answer about the root karma explaining her current life. In a past life, she was actually a wealthy, promiscuous man, a Sethi. This man kept many mistresses, seduced married women, even their daughters. He died with what's called a darkened mind. This immense negative karma apparently led to immediate rebirth of Mahanarak 3, that third great hell realm. It's described as a place of immense suffering, severe mutilation. The descriptions are graphic, being cut, gouged, chopped, body parts severed. This intense suffering, the sources state, lasted for a kalpa.
A kalpa. That's, wow, almost unimaginable time. It really underscores the gravity these traditions place on such actions. What happened after that initial horrific rebirth?
Well, from there, the karmic journey continued through other, maybe slightly lighter, hell realms like Usatanarok and Yamanarok. Each represents stages of karmic purification, often involving prolonged suffering, like, say, climbing thorny trees. Then the journey led to rebirth as various animals, most frequently as a female dog mated by many males during heat, described as similar to human group sex. She even mated with her own offspring. This, according to the sources, deeply imprinted that group sex tendency, which then recurred in her current human life. Following these animal rebirths, she was reborn as a prostitute for hundreds of lives. But, and this is crucial during that time, she also made offerings to Buddhism and prayed for a better life. This is what explains her current human status, which is described as being better than a prostitute, a direct result of that merit-making, even amidst intense suffering.
So, even in the depths of suffering, an act of faith, a prayer, could start to shift that karmic path. That's quite a hopeful thought, actually. Let's pivot to something crucial in her current life: the abortions. How do the sources explain the karmic consequences there?
Yes, moving to that, the sources detail the karma of abortion quite extensively. The several abortions she had in this life created significant new negative karma. This leads, they say, to future rebirths in Mahanarak Kum 1, the first great hell realm, and other hell realms. When eventually reborn as human, the severe consequences often being aborted oneself or having a very short lifespan. This tragically prevents the chance to accumulate good karma, potentially trapping someone in a cycle. They also discuss the severity. It's considered less severe if the fetus is in the very early stages, like when consciousness has just entered and the menstrual cycle stopped and takes less effort to terminate. It's deemed more severe if the fetus is more developed.
That's a very specific, almost nuanced view of the karmic impact, differing based on the stage. What about her daughter, the one who survived the abortion attempts? How is her survival explained karmically? Is it different?
Yes, her daughter's survival is attributed to her own distinct past karma. In a previous life, the daughter herself had been pregnant and intended to abort, but critically, she did not go through with it in the end. That past action of restraint, that holding back, is what allowed her to survive the attempts in this life. The sources say if the daughter doesn't create new negative karma herself, she'll likely have a normal lifespan. It's a really clear example of individual karma playing out separate from her mother's.
It's incredible how interwoven these threads can be, yet also distinct for each individual. Let's go back to her brother's story, which was so poignant. The mother felt he needed genes. The brother sent warnings in dreams. What's the karmic truth behind his death and those messages?
Right, and this highlights some common misconceptions about death and the afterlife. His death, the sources stress, was primarily due to his own present life karma specifically, his heavy drinking leading directly to that fatal motorcycle accident. It wasn't caused by the protagonist's prayer. The sources reveal that after 7 days, he went to Yamalok, a lower realm. There, he's currently being forced to drink hot molten copper as a consequence of his past actions, particularly the drinking. Now, regarding his messages, the dreams in the window tapping about the niece's appendicitis, those were real warnings, genuine communications from that realm, not just mental defilements, were Jitni one of the mother. However, the medium's claim about the brother needing genes, completely false according to this framework. He's still in Yamalok and needs real merit. Good deeds done in his name, spiritual offerings, not material things like genes. His current suffering is described as immense due to his many past wrongs. Alcohol, smoking, women, drugs, gambling. Apparently there's no relief. He just keeps saying, "It's so painful, please help." He has received some merit from the protagonist's recent temple visits, but it's clearly not enough yet to significantly ease his suffering.
So the dreams were real communication, but the material requests were a misdirection. That really clarifies the need for true spiritual practice over perhaps superficial gestures. Okay, and what about her husband, the one who answered her prayer for a better life? What's his karmic connection here?
His role is also explained beautifully by karma. He's indeed the answer to her prayer from that past life as a prostitute, the one where she made offerings to Buddhism and wished for a better life. The sources explain that he found her in a bad environment, specifically mentioning bars and clubs, which then karmically explains his own current habits of frequenting those places. It's like the connection was forged in that setting. The advice given for the protagonist is quite empathetic, I think. She should encourage him to listen to the Dharma, maybe from the venerable monk at the temple, gently explaining the truth of life over time. She should try to gently compromise, maybe going to the places he likes, but firmly refraining from drinking and smoking herself. Patiently guiding him towards understanding, without force or judgment. And finally, there's this powerful connection mentioned to what the sources call the group, or mukana. In that past life as a man, the protagonist apparently did accumulate merit with his spiritual group, almost like being part of a provision-supplying army for the teachings. But then he associated with bad company, the Pan, and strayed from that path for many kalpas. So this current life is presented as this rare, precious opportunity to reconnect with that spiritual community and path of merit. An opportunity, the sources emphasize, that shouldn't be squandered.
Wow. If we connect all these intricate threads then, the bigger picture that emerges is really this profound understanding of karmic continuity, isn't it?
Exactly. The sources illustrate with startling clarity sometimes that actions, even those from really distant pasts, create these patterns that just resonate through lifetimes. But, and this is so crucial, they also show that these patterns aren't set in stone. They're not unchangeable. There's always an opportunity to course correct, to understand, and ultimately to build a better future. The key, as the sources keep reiterating, is summed up in the phrase "La Chwatam Di Tam Jai Hai Sai." Basically, abandon evil, do good, and purify the mind. Avoid sinful, unwholesome acts, and just accumulate all forms of merit with your full effort. And for this person, this lifetime, after potentially many kalpas of separation, offers this unique and precious chance to reconnect with that path of merit making.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? This deep dive into one very specific, very intense life journey offers some powerful universal lessons, I think. It really underscores the profound impact every choice we make, not just in this moment, but potentially across many lifetimes. It highlights how that longing for a better life, even when you're in the midst of terrible suffering, can actually manifest in unexpected ways, sometimes bringing supportive people into our lives just when we need them, even if the connection isn't perfect, like with her husband. And remember that advice given, how to gently guide her husband towards the Dharma without forcing him, but also without abandoning her own principles. It really speaks to patience and consistent effort. So after exploring this intricate web of karma, rebirth, redemption in this deep dive, what aspect of your own life's journey, or maybe the choices you're facing today, might you look at differently through this lens of cause and effect? What small, consistent act of goodness could you commit to, knowing its potential ripple effects way out into your future? Something to think about?